Hello again, class. Today's video has two different purposes. One is to kind of introduce you to what scholarly articles look like in general. And then the second purpose is to talk a little bit about this particular article, Non-Cognitive Predictors of Student Success in College, which is the one you read for the assignment number 10, Introducing Yourself to a Scholar. So I just have the article up, which was linked for you. This is from our HCC library database. And so I just want to point out a few elements to you. So first of all, we have the author's names right here. This was published in 2012. So that's not so long ago in terms of what the topic is. You know, maybe things haven't changed so much since then. It is from originally the College Student Journal. All right, and so if we wanted to find out more about the audience for this article, we could Google College Student Journal, or actually I could push on this link, which I don't want to do now because that'll take us away from this article. But you could push on that link, which might tell you a little bit more about that journal. From the name of it, we could either assume it's for college students or for educators who might care about college students and helping them to be successful. It's published by a group called the Project Innovation out of Alabama. It's a report. It's got that many words. And then up here, this is the database that it came from. Gale Academic OneFile. Our college subscribes to a number of different databases. Academic OneFile is a pretty general database that has a lot of different types of sources in it. And so that tells us where it came from. If I was searching the library, that would be the database that I found it in. Some other things for you to be aware of. If you click on this Cite button, all right, then you can cite it in different kinds of style. So we would use MLA. So this is how you cite it in MLA. If I needed to cite it in APA, I could click here, or Chicago style over here. Note when MLA, and I used this when I talked about the article, I said et al. MLA style says if you have 3 or more authors, then you could use this abbreviation, et al. It means it's Latin for meaning and others. Okay, so that just makes it shorter than writing everybody's name out. Even in your paper, you can put Sparkman et al. Said that. You don't need to put all their names. So that is that. It also tells you the journal number, volume 46, issue 3. Generally, the volume number indicates like a year, right? Like maybe this is the 46th year they've been doing this. Or if they publish maybe like winter spring editions, then it might be something like that. And then the issue number might be more like what issue it is for that year. So let's say sometimes the volume 46 might mean they've been doing this for 46 years and this is the 3rd issue of the year, something like that. That's what volume and issue tend to indicate. All right, so we're going to dive into a little bit about the article and the way that it is structured. I'm going to switch here. What I did, because I like to read things on paper and annotate that way. Although they have a highlighting and notes thing here. I've never tried that, but you might be able to highlight it and put your notes right on the screen with that. But what I did was I downloaded the article and it gave me a PDF file. I printed it out. I have just a cheap black and white printer at home, so I printed it out. And then I was able to scan it back in using my phone. If you didn't know, you can use the note function on your phone to scan documents. So I scanned it in that way, so I had it available for all of you to look at. All right, so here is my PDF copy of the article, and you'll see my annotations written. All right, the first part of the article, obviously we have the names of the author here in the title. All right, then the first thing that will come in a scholarly article or a journal article and or scientific study is something called the abstract. Now, this isn't labeled abstract. Usually you'll just see it as the first thing in the paper. Sometimes they put it all in italics. But the abstract, think of the abstract as part summary of what the article is going to be about, as well as telling you a little bit of what I like to call the so what. Why should people care about this? Why did the authors themselves do a study of this? Sorry, if you hear weird noises, my dog has come to drink from the water bowl nearby me. So in this first paragraph, they're saying why they did this study, why people should care. And that's because what they found is that just better than half of the students who enroll in the 4-year colleges and universities will receive a bachelor's degree within 6 years. Okay, so that means almost half of the people who enroll are not ever getting a degree. So that's a problem that people should care about. So that's what they're saying, why they're saying people should be interested in this. Then they're talking about how traditional predictors of student success like GPA, SAT, and ACT have not been great at actually predicting success. And then the last line, kind of like their thesis statement, what they were going to do, why they did this study, is they did this study to look at emotional intelligence as a possible predictor. Now, the next section, in this one they don't say literature review. Sometimes they'll actually use the words and call it a literature review. But generally with the study, the thing that comes after the abstract is kind of a section that introduces background, often called the literature review. So if you're doing a study on something, you want to have good background on that topic, know what other people have done before you, so you are not repeating their work, or at least if you're repeating their work, you're doing it somewhat like them so that you can confirm or deny the way they did their study. So this shows that you've kind of done your homework on this topic. So for their literature review, they start talking about the different student retention models or theories, what other people have said about what helps students to be successful in college. Okay, so they talk about several different people. So the first one is Tinto, all right, and he talks about being involved and integrated on campus as a good measure of student success. All right, then we go on and talk about that. And the next person he talks about is Bean, who developed the model for student departure. Basically, he's saying the level of institutional commitment a student has could indicate student success. He finds that socialization is important, making friends on campus. All right, the next person is Aston, involvement with faculty, academic peer, involvement is his important things. And he breaks it down to being academic peers, academics and peers. Then we have Bean again, and Bean joined with Eaton here to talk about the college structure, what the college is doing to help students to be successful. But they're talking about how we need to have better predictors, and now he's going to tell you what he knows about emotional intelligence, or he or they, the authors, are going to tell you about some background on emotional intelligence and what it is. All right, and they talk about how IQ hasn't been the best predictor of life or college success, and emotional intelligence is often a better predictor. There seems to be a paragraph that's repeated here, oddly. They say the transition from high school to college is important, so maybe colleges need to be paying better attention to that. And then they talk about finally how emotional intelligence can be improved. So they're giving you some background on emotional intelligence. Next comes the research design, what exactly they did for their study. In most cases, student, you wouldn't need to read this, or maybe you just want to skim it to get an idea about what kind of study they did. In this case, they got their data from a Southeastern United States college, and they they gave students this emotional intelligence quiz during their orientation. So it tells you a little bit about that. All right, the data analysis part, I'm an English major. I can never read that. I don't need to know the details of the data analysis and exactly how they did the math and how they did their study, all those numbers. So again, that's a part where I could skim or maybe skip altogether. Unless for some reason you're doing this for a science class, or reading the article for a science class, who wants to know more about exactly what they studied. So you can, in most cases, kind of skip that methodology section and go right into the conclusions and discussions. All right, this is where we get our results. Basically, lonely white girls are the most likely to graduate, people who aren't dating. It's harder for first-generation college students. Oh, my dog is here wanting to go out, so I'm rushing through before she starts to bark. So this section is basically the conclusions. This is a good section for you to read to basically find out what they found out in their study. That's probably the information that you most want to get. All right, this section, the limitations, tells you what problems they can think of might have happened with their study. And then the last thing is they're going to give you recommendations about, based on what they learned, what should somebody do. So the limitations section you might not need unless, let's say, you're writing a causal essay or a solution essay where you're looking at the issue of college success, and you want to give some recommendations on what colleges can do to help students be more successful. All right, so hopefully that gives you an idea. As a college student, for most of your essays, if you just found this article, you're writing a paper about student success, you would get your information from the introduction, from the abstract, I should say, and then maybe the literature review, and then finally, again, from the results section. That's where you would get most of your information that you would need. Again, unless, of course, you want to look at their recommendations, because that might be helpful for you in giving solutions to a problem. All right, I hope that gives you, before I go, I want to also talk a little bit about the references page. All right, references pages are great because then this is someplace you can go. You can pick one of these articles, look it up on our database, and then that's an easy way for you to find a source. The other thing is it helps to improve your own ethos by learning about who the experts are on the issues, right? In this one, they mentioned all the different theories, Aston and Bean. So you know that these are people who have worked in this industry. When you see other people talking about them, you know, okay, these are the experts in this field. So it's always a good idea to take a look at the references. There might be something that you can use there. All right, I think that's it, class. I'm sorry I kind of rushed through this, but I hope it gives you an idea about how to look at and how to read an article and just what kind of things to find on when you're looking at the database. All right, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.